Welcome back to Perry's Pit on Jams for Hire. I'm Matthew Perry, and the WWE have released their top 50 greatest women's superstars list. Earlier today, they finished up with 5 through 1. Every day, they had been dropping some names, starting at 50 a week or two ago, and then wound up finishing with 5 through 1 today. The entire list will be next to me right here. You can read through it if you'd like. I'm not going to hit everybody. Some people are fair, some people I definitely don't like the positioning of, and I'm going to address the ones I have problems with right here. We'll get right into it. We'll start with number 48, Kaylie Ray. She's the current UK Women's Champion on NXT UK. She's held it for over 500 days. 48 compared to some of the other people on this list, you'll see people like um, Lacey Evans, who we'll get into next, people like Naomi. No one is. I don't. It depends how you value NXT UK, because for me, obviously, it's probably WWE's weakest show, just because it's not globally watched by many. It doesn't have a cable spot, at least not in the United States, and it flies under the radar a lot. So I can see why people don't appreciate Kaylee Ray how they should, but when you're holding any championship for over 500 days, it should be acknowledged a bit more. And especially since there are women in front of Kaylee Ray on this list who have not won any titles, um, I definitely think Kaylee Ray should be higher on this list. We'll move forward to number 39, Lacey Evans. As I mentioned, it's ridiculous. It's mind-boggling that Lacey Evans is in this position. Obviously, she's had a fine run on Raw over the past few months. Obviously, now in present day, she's pregnant. Her feud with Charlotte was put completely on hold, or at least on hold or dropped, because it hasn't been mentioned in weeks. And she's off TV. We know outside of kayfabe, she is pregnant, so she'll be out for quite a few more months, maybe even upwards towards a year, however long she decides to stay out and care for her newborn. So hopefully that goes well for her, but she has no place being, I'll say it, in the top 50. I don't think there's any reason for her to be in the top 50. And I know there are a couple other names on here. Candice LeRae, Shotzi Blackheart, they're questionable as well. They haven't won. Shotzi Blackheart currently is the NXT Tag Champ, but Candice LeRae is yet to win a title for WWE. So there are a couple questionable ones on here that have not won any titles or have won maybe one or two. Lacey Evans, I don't think has made an impact either. Like Candice LeRae has been at the forefront of the women's division in NXT for probably at least a year now. Up there around Io Shirai, hanging around the title picture. And I do think she'll get it one day. She hasn't gotten it yet, so I do understand why someone like Candice LeRae is on here. But Lacey Evans, it doesn't make any sense. She doesn't even have a singles pay-per-view win under her belt, which is, is like the least you can do. It's the least you can do to prove to everybody that you are worth something. I think Lacey Evans is a great heel. I do like her character. She's really developed a persona over the last couple of years, but until you start winning titles and having an actual impact on the women's division, I can't see you being on this list. She either needs to be way lower on the list or out of it altogether. We'll move to number 36, Nia Jax. I'll stop here just because she's a liability. Obviously, she's had a couple title runs with the tag title. She's currently the tag champ with Shayna Baszler, who's on this list, who's higher up, luckily. But yeah, Nia Jax is a bad wrestler, and every time she's on a pay-per-view card or whatever, and I'm doing a video, I gotta mention it. She's a liability. She has the build to be an intimidating heel, and that's what she tries to be, but I don't know. All the fans see right through it. So if she works on that, sure, you could have that 36 spot. Why not? We'll move to the Bella Twins, number 26. The Bella Twins definitely had some runs, Divas champs. I wish there were women's tag belts back when the Bella Twins were in the WWE together, because that would have been perfect for them. Obviously, they had the twin magic. They were together in many feuds, whether for or against each other. And yeah, they did a lot for the women's division. I think they were at that point before the women's revolution where they weren't getting long match times, 5-minute matches. Many fans consider that the bathroom break matches, and the Divas title just wasn't valued how the Raw and SmackDown Women's Championships are valued now. It's a wrong era for them. It's a bad era. I do think they were quality wrestlers. They were good on the microphone. They're entertaining. I mean, they still have a show on E, and that earns WWE plenty of revenue. I've heard good things about that show, and that's still pretty popular, even though they are out of wrestling at this point. So maybe I move them a couple spots higher. I don't think I'd move them too far higher because we're starting to get into some elite company when we go top 20 moving forward, at least most of them. But yeah, maybe move them up a couple spots because they've done a lot for the WWE and for the women's division. They were just in the wrong era. Moving forward to Natalya, number 20. I mean, she's still around, and you speak of people who did a lot for the women's division. Natalya was in that same era as the Bella Twins and has moved into this era. I really hope before she retires, we're able to see her with a women's championship. Obviously, she had the Divas championship back in the day, and that was fine and good, but she's undervalued as a wrestler. Now, I mean, at this point, she's like her gimmick. She's the boat best of all time. They've run out of ideas with Natalya, which is tough because I do think she's a quality wrestler. They just don't really know what to do with her, so they throw her in all these random things. She was in a tag team with Lana, and now Lana's with Naomi, and she's with Tamina. They just throw in random things and see what sticks. Nothing's really stuck. So until they can figure things out with Natalya, she's undervalued in the present day WWE. But top 20, I think, is a good spot for her. I think I'd move her up a couple more spots. And same for this girl, number 19, AJ Lee, another product of that pre women's evolution era. She left right before it. And honestly, a lot of these girls have to thank AJ Lee for what she did, because what she did with her time in WWE was truly she was a generational talent. I'll say that. And she didn't have the longest stint in the women's division, but what she did as Divas champ and what she did in her role as a heel is something that few women have touched, even now. AJ Lee was truly fantastic at what she did. She was believable. She could work in the ring. She had everything it took to be a star. And obviously, she's found other careers. I know she's a writer. She does graphics. I think she does comic book stuff like that. And that's great. I think she's been a New York Times bestseller, which is fantastic. But I will say I do miss her in the ring, and I don't think she'll ever come back. But she definitely needs to be appreciated for what she did. Moving to 16, it's a head scratcher. Sable. I'm not super familiar with Sable besides her very raunchy moments in the Attitude Era. Um, I'm not very familiar with her matches, so lack of knowledge with Sable, it's tough. I don't think she's in the right company though. I mean, is she better than AJ Lee and Natalya? I mean, Natalya they've run out of ideas for, but Natalya's had has had longevity and she's been consistent and she's still a good wrestler even to this day. Sable, from my knowledge, was never the best wrestler. She was mostly there just for her looks. She's married to Brock Lesnar, so I think Brock Lesnar might have had some pull in the locker room getting her opportunities. That's not confirmed. Don't start coming for me, Brock. But uh, yeah, it's questionable. Sable, number 16. She might have been a big part of the Attitude Era, but like so were quite a few other women. And Attitude Era was also a time where they were on TV more for their looks than anything else. They were more models than wrestlers, and these are the greatest women's superstars. Superstar is such a loose term. I mean, I guess I don't like Sable here. If I'm making this list, Sable's going much lower on the list, maybe in the 40s, 30s or 40s. I could be way off here, but I'm judging this by wrestling ability in the end. That's at the top of my list. So there's that. Wrestling ability, number 8, Lolita. She had plenty of wrestling ability. Also a member of the Attitude Era into the Ruthless Aggression era. She was probably one of the first women to, I don't want to say go all out, but really show us some exciting spots in her matches. Obviously, she affiliated with Team Extreme, with the Hardy Boys, with Edge and Christian at one, or not Christian, but Edge at one point. She was a part of a lot of main storylines in the WWE, and she got airtime for not just her appearance, but for what she can do in the ring, how she can contribute to the drama of a feud. She is an all around player. And for me, one of my favorite women's wrestlers of all time. I do think Lita is better than number 8 on this list. I want her to crack the top 5. I'm glad she's top 10. I guess I'll take it. But to me, Lita's a top 10 women's superstar. She was an all around 5 tool player and could really contribute to any aspect of the wrestling game. I'm disappointed in the number 8 selection. She could have definitely gone right here where I'm moving to number 5, Asuka. Asuka's held plenty of titles in the last few years, but the longevity, she hasn't been here for a long time. She's definitely been here for a good time. And currently she's the Raw Women's Champ. But I don't know. Top 5 feels early to me. Um, I want to see more from Asuka. She's definitely top 50. There's no doubt about that. Top 15, maybe top 20 for sure, I'd say. It's questionable. I still feel like there's something missing with Asuka. Her personality can be good at times, but obviously with somewhat of a language barrier. I don't think her English is perfect. Uh, Promos are off, and I wouldn't consider her an all-around player. I do think in the ring she's pretty good, but she doesn't do it for me. There are other current women's wrestlers that I prefer. Other ones that crack the top 5, like Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair. I do prefer them, and their spots in here make plenty of sense. I completely understand. Maybe someone like Sasha Banks takes this number 5 spot. Maybe Lita. I would have really liked Lita in top 5, as I mentioned, but Oscar 5, I don't know. And we'll finish things off with number 1, Trish Stratus. Trish Stratus was arguably the face of the women's division for quite some time. Definitely the Attitude Era, moving into the Ruthless Aggression Era. For me, and this might be Lita bias, there is no Trish Stratus without Lita. Their rivalry was a high point for the women's division at that time and really did a lot to legitimize it. Of course, it took years, took far too long to legitimize the women's division. But if there were any 2 women wrestlers of that generation that you can that you put in a league of their own, it would be Lita and Trish Stratus. So I understand Trish Stratus being number 1, I guess. Charlotte Flair being number 2, I'll mention that. She's already so close to number 1, and I have no doubt that within the next 3 years, she will be number 1. It runs in the family, I guess. Charlotte Flair has done everything right as a member of the WWE. She represents her heritage very well. She carries herself very well. And I know this has nothing to do with Trish Stratus, but you know, Charlotte Flair deserves a lot of credit because I do think she is the closest thing to number 1, even closer than Trish Stratus. I don't like the Trish Stratus being number 1. I understand it. I do understand it. I just I value things differently than WWE, of course. So superstar for me, I'm mainly off wrestling ability. Trish Stratus was solid in the ring, but I don't think she's better than Lita. She's not better than Charlotte. She's not better than Becky, Sasha. But the women's revolution. We've had Evolution, the women only pay per view, and that went over well. I hope to see another one of those soon. Honestly, I love another something like that. The WWE women's division is the best it's ever been, and it's currently the best in the world. I don't think any other wrestling company, I don't think AEW and New Japan, definitely not Impact. None of these organizations touch the WWE women's division. So much depth, so much class, so much experience, all into one. You can name off a bunch of names, and a lot of these top 50 women are current. Alexa Bliss, Naomi, Natalya's still around. Then you got, of course, the ones that are top 10. Sasha, Charlotte, Becky. You know, there are plenty of current day names that Asuka are current day names that have made this top 50 already, and it's only going to grow from here. And hopefully in 10 years, this list is a lot harder to make. and women keep growing through wrestling and everything, because it's been fantastic. I've loved what I've seen so far from the women's division WWE. They've came so far just over these past like 5 6 years. So much has changed and improved, and I can't wait to see what the next 10 years holds. But those have been my thoughts on the top 50 greatest women's superstars list made by WWE. Let me know your guys' thoughts on the list below. There's definitely a few questionable calls in here, as I mentioned. I want to hear your questionable calls. So get that down in the comments. Like the video, subscribe, follow us on the socials. Those will be in the description. And I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching.